Welcome back to GMT. Pope Francis has admitted that clerics have sexually abused nuns. And in one case, nuns were kept as sex slaves. It's thought to be the first time that Pope Francis has acknowledged the sexual abuse of nuns by the clergy, and he says it's probably still going on. The Pope gave some detail of the sex slavery case, saying his predecessor, Pope Benedict, had to shut down an entire congregation because of the rampant abuse of nuns by priests. Here's part of the interview that Pope Francis gave to reporters on his way back from Abu Dhabi.
There were priests and also bishops who did that. I think it's still going on because it's not a thing that once you realise it's happening, it's over. It's always continuing.
Let's talk now to our religion editor, Martin Bashir, who is with me now. These are incredibly concerning comments by the Pope.
They are, and they were entirely unprompted. The actual tradition on papal visits is that on the way back to Rome, Pope Francis comes to the front of the area where the press are sitting and opens himself up to questions. Generally, questions begin about the trip itself, how he felt it went, and then reporters are invited to ask other questions. And this question was raised because of a publication in an Italian magazine, I think in the last 4 weeks, which emphasised or described the abuse of nuns. This story has been bubbling under the surface for some time, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa and in South Asia. And so the reporter simply said, was he aware of this? And he said he was aware of it. And then, completely unprompted, he volunteered this information that his predecessor, Pope Benedict, had actually dissolved a religious community in France because he felt, Pope Benedict felt, that women were basically sexual slaves, indentured slaves for the sexual predilection of bishops and other priests in the area. I should also add that in India, at the moment in South India, a bishop is currently suspended from his service, having been accused of repeatedly raping a nun. And in her evidence, she presented evidence to her superiors, and it appeared to correspond exactly with the visitor's logbook whenever this particular bishop visited. There's also been allegations in Malawi where priests have talked openly about sexually abusing nuns. There's a twofold reason for this. One is there's a power play because many of these religious women are reliant on the beneficence of male leaders, bishops and priests. But also in a country like Malawi, where there's such a large-scale infection of HIV, religious sisters are often regarded as pure. So it's almost as if there's a double exploitation that takes place in countries like this. So it really is serious. Now, Pope Francis, as you know, is hosting the first ever papal summit on child sexual abuse, which begins on the 20th of February in Rome. Every single president of every bishop's conference around the world will be attending. And I've confirmed today that the issue of priests and bishops abusing nuns will be discussed at those hearings.
Everything you've just said would be so shocking to so many people. An acknowledgement from Pope Francis that it's happening is one thing. Did he talk about what is being done to change the culture that allows it to happen, Martin?
This is a hugely complex issue, as you know. First of all, think about the dimensions of the Catholic Church. It exists in every country of the world, and there are something like 1.3 billion adherents. How would you develop protocols and procedures that would apply in every single nation when each of those nations may have very different judicial systems and cultural systems? For example, in a place like Afghanistan, marrying a girl aged 12 is legal. That wouldn't be the case in Europe and in North America. And so the Pope has already addressed the issue and said, look, we mustn't over-egg our expectations of this event, but at the same time, simply having this conference is a beginning and a way that he can communicate to every single country's leader, Catholic leader. This is of the utmost importance and needs to be addressed. But whether there will be protocols or principles that they can apply immediately, it's hard to imagine, given that this conference will be no more than 3.5 days long.
Martin, so good to have your thoughts. Thanks for explaining the complexity of that.